I love it. We just told everyone we got to wear masks, and then we're not wearing masks.
We're under the one little exemption for theatrical performance, so expect an incredibly theatrical performance. My name is Moises. I'm in all the way from Texas, and not just because my girlfriend lives here, because this is one of the greatest cities in the world. This is one of the best conventions that I have ever been to, and I've been to a lot of them. James, you have been to a lot of these conventions.
A whole lot.
A whole lot.
Yeah, I love Toronto. Hey, can I ask you a favor?
Absolutely.
Can I ask you guys a favor? I'd like to take a little video of anyone that's cosplaying from any show that I was on, and then I string them together and put them on social media after the con. But I'd like them to have a big round of applause. Can you guys applaud a lot, and I'll film you? Yeah?
Do it.
Raise your hands like your team just won the big thing. Sorry. Like the Jays just took the series.
Like the Jays just did the series. Like the Leafs won tonight. So let me warm you up with a question. We've got a roving microphone that will be going out there to capture your audience questions. This is, I think, the fifth convention that we've both done since we come back this year. What has it been like getting back out there and seeing the fans again after that much time away from getting this kind of love from people?
Like breathing again. You know, that's what I miss most of all. Like, I'm a gamer, so in the beginning of lockdown, I was like, oh, I have to stay home? What shall I do with myself, you know? And that was good for like 4 months. And then I started to get a little cabin fever. And then I started hanging out with my friends on Zoom, and that was okay. But I missed community, man. I missed hanging out with cool people in 3 dimensions. And I guess this is, my 5th convention since we come back, and I absolutely love it. Like, I love conventions. Everyone's beautiful, everyone's safe, and you can be whatever you want to be. It's heaven. Yeah.
I think a lot of our favorite episodes from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Once More with Feeling, not only did people love it and gravitate toward it immediately, but then people started shadow casting it the way that people did Rocky Horror Picture Show for so many years now. Have you actually witnessed this in person, seen people do this?
One time, I think it was in Austin, Texas.
Tampa.
Was it Tampa?
It was Tampa.
Okay, right on. Yeah, one time. It was awesome.
Oops, leading question. Sorry, I knew.
Yeah, I know. But some of my earliest memories, like the beginnings of Spike in me, was Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like I lived in a very conservative town, but every Saturday night we would put on like punk rock, lipstick, glam makeup, dresses and stuff, and just walk downtown to Rocky Horror Picture Show, freak out the cowboys. You know, it was awesome. So yeah, it comes full circle.
I've got one more for you because this is all about the fans, and I want to make sure that we get as many fan questions as humanly possible. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. My friend here in the yellow shirt, I mean, if you bribe him just enough, you might jump up the order just like a karaoke. One of my favorite recent, a few years ago now, productions that you were a part of is Marvel's Runaways, where you played Dick Stein, and it was really wonderful getting to see you chew on a role that had so much complexity to it. It's not just a father figure, it's a father figure with some issues of his own, you know? What did you have much familiarity with the character, with the material before it came to you? What excited you about it the most once you did get the part?
I like to play villains that are supposed to be hated and then try to get the audience to be like, oh, actually he's a human being. Oh, maybe he's not just a villain. Victor on Runaways, that character was supposed to die in 7 episodes. Like, for those of you who don't know, Marvel's Runaways is about a group of teenagers that figure out that their parents are supervillains, basically. And of all of the horrible parents in the show, Victor was twice as horrible. He was just absolutely irredeemable. And I just thought it was a good challenge to try to take a character that was supposed to be hated and then make people kind of feel for him a little bit. In fact, My favorite thing was to do like interviews with journalists, and I would sit down and be like, okay, first of all, Victor is the biggest hero in this whole show. And they'd be like, you're killing a teenager every year. That's not really a hero. And I said, well, let's talk about that. So I'm playing a character who has been trying to save humanity by inventing fusion power and perfecting that, and basically saving us from global warming, coming up with a new energy supply. And I come into my middle age and I've failed, and I haven't gotten it done. And then I meet an alien who says, well, I have that technology, I'll give it to you for free, but you have to keep me alive, and I need to eat, but I eat people, so I need at least one a year. And I asked the journalist, like, if someone gave you that choice right now, would you say, let all humanity die so you can go to your grave with a clean conscience? Or would you let yourself be the villain and let us all live? What's the hero do? And they're like, well, that's really interesting, James. And then they'd be like, wait a minute, you're beating your son. And I'm like, well, let's talk about that. My son has 177 IQ, and he's getting C's in high school. Now, at what point, as a parent, do you stop saying, good job, son, and when do you put the hammer down? Now, maybe I'm going too far, but maybe that's not as bad as going not far enough, don't you think? They're like, wow, I never thought of it that way, James. And then I'd be like, I'm kidding! I'm a villain! He's horrible! Yeah, I love that. It was a great show.
Well, let's get some questions from the audience out here. Who's got...
The lead, the guy that did all the stunts for Tom Welling had just fallen 16 feet onto concrete, and they didn't know if he was ever coming back. It happens all the time. What was the question?
Yeah. So the advice you would have for...
What is the most surprising thing you learned about yourself?
Wow.
Any particularly good speed runs in Mario Brothers? Or,
I think I've learned that to be happy, I need to help people. I've really, like, I'm sorry, we gotta change this. We gotta come down on the lip.
Yeah, I think
it's
I
like
agree.
we're so far away from it. Of course, we're gonna feedback.
now that the guys on the camera are gonna have to re-pull focus.
You get a close up for free. Does this work for you guys?
That's good?
Yeah?
That's good?
Yeah.
Rocking the boat too much? Look at this, real rebels. That's what we're doing.
Okay. Hi, we're in the same room now.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Yeah, I was getting lonely in COVID, and I just started this group on Zoom with like 5 friends of mine, and we would get together on Zoom every day, and we would just kind of, hang out. And then it grew to like 30 people. And we would just take 3 minutes and tell the group how we're doing that day. It was just very simple. Because like on Zoom, you can't all talk at once, and this is like a cacophony of voices. So we just decided to take 3 minutes apiece and tell them. And the thing that happened was, within that group, there was some guy that had a great day, and there was always someone that was having a really hard day or a really hard week. Maybe their mom was dying, or maybe they were going through a divorce or something like that. And we just started calling each other outside of that meeting and kind of like trying to show up for each other. And we just started to get really involved in each other's lives. And I found myself happier than I'd been in a long time. And I think that that's probably not new information, that in order to be happy, you help people. I think a lot of people know that, but I didn't as much as I do now. And consequently, I'm really not playing as many video games. Because now I'm getting calls from guys who are like, hey man, my heart's breaking, can you talk for a while? But I'm finding that that's a lot more fulfilling than shooting people in the face. Which is fun. It is fun. But, yeah.
There we go.
Hi, James.
Hey.
I just wanted to ask, did you guys pull any fun pranks on the set of Buffy?
Oh man. No. Okay. Like we worked up to 20 hours a day on Buffy. Like usually shows go 12 hours, and after 12 hours you have to pay the crew double, and so they don't, But Buffy had money, and so we never only went 12. 12 was unheard of. It was 14 to 16 was normal, and getting up to 18 to 20 hours was quite normal as well. And you do that, and you get tired. There's a level of fatigue that I didn't even know existed, and you just stop messing around. You really want to try to get the shots and go get at least 4 hours of sleep before you go back and do it again. And this is back when we were doing 22 episodes a year. Like now TV shows are doing 8. Like on Runaways, the cast was like, man, 8 episodes, I'm getting tired. I'm like, oh my God. Calm down, kids.
Youngin', back in my day, we walked 30 miles through the snow to do a television.
Yeah, so not a lot of messing around, and I was the worst at it. In fact, there's this like the gag reel. It's probably online now, but they're made initially for the cast party at the end of every episode, and it's meant for us to laugh at ourselves. And I was never in these little movies. I was never, and I finally went to Joss, and I was like, man, I'm never in the gag reel. Like, what is it? You don't like me? What's wrong? I was all offended. Jesus. And he goes, you want to know why? And I said, yeah. He goes, you're boring. And I was like, what? And he goes, every time the director yells cut, you do exactly the same thing. You look down, make sure you're on your mark, you go back to your chair, you get your script out, you study your lines. That doesn't make for a good gag reel. And he goes, now, when you call action, it's like you released a tiger onto the set, so don't change anything, but you're not a gag reel actor, James.
Hi, James.
Where are you, man?
Over here.
Cool.
Charisma Carpenter came forward as having a difficult relationship, to put it mildly, with Joss Whedon. And you are known as one of the most collegial colleagues. Sorry, not just the words, but I'm curious if you had to give other actors coming up in the business advice on sort of how to safeguard and make sure that those power relationships aren't negatively impacting either themselves or their colleagues. What advice would you give to them?
I never really talk to producers. I never really get to know them that well, to tell you the truth, because I mean, I have my job and they have theirs, and they are dealing with the big picture, and I'm dealing with just myself. And I would probably say just learn your lines, show up to the set on time, and do as best as you can. I'm not talking specifically, like the situation on Buffy is heartbreaking to me. The truth is that I didn't really work with Joss a whole lot. Like, I was a series regular from series 4 through 7, right? And during those years, Joss was away doing Angel, and the showrunner was Marty Noxon. So when I think of Buffy and I think of a showrunner, I think of Marty. Joss was coming in every once in a while to direct an episode, but the thing that I hated was whenever he came in to direct an episode, I was never in it. I had like a half a scene when he came into town, and I was very resentful about that, you know, because Joss always got the really great episodes, the ones that everybody remembered, and I was very rarely used during those times. And then, by the time I got over to Angel, he was off doing Firefly. So again, I remember he even came in to apologize at some time, and he told everybody, look, I'm still involved in the show. You guys don't see me anymore, but I'm breaking story and I'm editing, and I'm still focused on you. You just don't see me around. So that, combined with the fact that I really didn't even talk that much to my fellow actors. I was like a method actor. Like, I'm the dude, in 4th grade I did Winnie the Pooh, but I really wanted to get the pathos I was doing Eeyore, and I wanted to get the true pathos. Like, I was really serious about acting. So when I got Spike, I was like, I just dove into that character, and Spike is a loner. And so I was alone. And frankly, after years of that, it was very lonely. But I would shoot my scene, and as soon as they released me, I would find a dark corner in the set and hide alone. And no one knew where I was. As soon as they called my name, I could hear them, and I would appear on my mark, and they'd be like, whoa, you scared me, you know? But I really just wanted to sink into that character because I knew that the writing was the best that I was ever going to get. And so I wanted to give it myself fully. So, like, a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing now, I'm just like, what? Oh my God, you know, like, so it's hard for me to really comment too directly about that stuff.
In general,
that it sounds like it was really hard for some people, and that really kind of breaks my heart. Yeah. What I will say is that I love Me Too. I absolutely, Jesus, it's about it. Like, I mean, I've actually been on that side of it where someone wants to sleep with you, and when you say no, they take revenge out on you. That's happened to me more than once. It's also happened that I'm working with an actor who's really like pissed off, and you don't know why, and then come to find out it's because they were getting some pressure from something. What I loved about Runaways is that the very first day of every season, you go talk with the lawyer. And the whole company gets talking to by the lawyer. Everyone's told, like, you do not date people on the set, you don't make sexual references, you don't make sexual jokes, you do this, you don't do that. There's a whole list. And there's a lawyer behind that stuff. And consequently, that was the happiest set I've ever been on in my life. It was like day camp. It was like we're just completely relaxed. None of that stuff's going on. And I'm just like, thank God. It's about time, you know? We're protected now. Someone's, you know, we're not peeing in the pool anymore. We can swim, you know? So I guess, I don't know if that's the answer that you needed, but I guess that's what I got.
The thing that I was just about to jump in with was asking, in a general sense, you know, putting yourself in the shoes of a young actor who doesn't know for sure that maybe they're okay to speak up for themselves, to stand up for themselves. What kind of advice would you give that young actor who is uncertain of whether, you know, it's going to be worse for them speaking up than not? What advice or counsel would you give, you know, somebody, you know, if maybe even you were just thinking of the advice you would give yourself in that position?
I don't know, this sounds brutal, but I would say try to take care of it in-house if at all possible. Because once you go public with that information, you are basically endangering the money stream of a corporation. And that gets complicated. So there will be a lot of blowback, but until, I guess, you know, if you possibly can, within house, which means, you know, go over, whoever's doing this to you, go over their head. Because basically, if you're an actor, if you're a regular actor, and you quit, that's a big problem. So that if you go to someone and say, look, I don't know if I can stay around here because this is happening, they'll try to fix it for you. You know, that behavior is wrong, you know. But I've just, you know, I've learned just don't cost the corporation money if you can help it. They don't like that.
An army of lawyers.
Yeah. And it sounds brutal, you know, but I think that there's a way to do it in-house. Not that I have any, you know, it's so hard, like, you know, it's tough. It depends on the situation, man. Like, I'm not a wise man. I don't know.
Well, I really appreciate your candor on this.
That's how I did it. You know, that's how I did it. I just stayed in-house. You know?
That's something that I think a lot more people are thinking about these days. We've got somebody back here.
Hi James, I just wanted to ask you mentioned at the beginning that you've been playing a lot of video games over quarantine, and I just wanted to ask what some of your favorites are.
Let's see. I think we talked about I'm playing through now Luigi's Mansion 3 on my
It's incredible.
Awesome! Second playthrough. I went back and played all the Far Cries again. I just ate those up because I know all the mechanics and I've played it before. My favorite game of all time is Wolfenstein 2.
Oh, I haven't played it yet. You haven't played it yet?
Yeah, right? Because, I mean, Wolfenstein 2 is about a world where the Nazis win World War II, right? And then what happens after that? And the second one, Wolfenstein 2, the Nazis invade America, and half the country, the United States, and half the country down there is just fun with that. And so you get to go down to New Orleans and shoot people with like white hoods on. A lot. I play that level a lot.
It sounds like that's a little bit cathartic for you.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. But it's just one of those times that that storytelling can hold a mirror up to society in a really constructive and critical way. That's why I love what we're doing today. That's why I love fantasy and sci-fi, because I think that the writers for fantasy and sci-fi can actually talk more honestly and reflect more honestly to society, because we have like a plausible deniability. Hey man, it's just lightsabers, it's just fangs. We're not talking about you guys. No, heaven forbid. When in fact we really are. So if you're doing like a cop show or a doctor show, you really don't have that separation. You can't be that kind of brutally honest about things.
Question right back here in the middle.
Hi James. I'm a very big fan of your performances on the Dresden Files series. And I'm curious if you have a favorite out of all of the ones that you've performed, and if you do, why that is.
One of my favorites is Tutu. He's like a fairy, but he will stab you right in the eye, man. You don't make him angry, don't piss him off, man, because he's got a sword. It's a needle, actually, but he's not afraid to use it, okay?
I'm super good at that.
Out of all your Buffy cast members, who do you miss working with the most?
Anthony Head. Anthony Head. Great guy. Great anchor of the show. Best actor on the show by a mile. He pretty much taught me how to act for camera. Like, I came down very proud of coming, it came from the stage. And I'd done 100 plays, and I produced a bunch of plays, and I'm very proud about that. And came to find out that all of the toolbox that I had amassed for theater didn't really work for film. And I found it out when I started working with Tony. I did a scene with him, and when we were shooting, I was like, oh man, would you wake up? I'm gonna mop the floor with you today. And then I saw the scene, and he was so much more real than I was. And he was so much more interesting. More compelling, and he was basically on the day was just kind of mumbling, and I didn't even want to watch Spike. I didn't want the camera to cut over to me. I just kept wanting to watch Giles, and so I just started to watch him and what he did, and more importantly what he didn't do. And I would show up to set even when I wasn't working, and I would just sit on a little box and watch him film and try to figure out this new thing for film acting, and I had to admit that I had to go back to zero and learn it all over again. And I'm so thankful that there was such a good film actor on Buffy that I could learn from. And he's also just the nicest guy in the world. Yeah, I miss him a lot.
As a little follow-up to that, how different is he as just a regular person than everybody out here who knows him as Giles, or from Repo, or from Ted Lasso recently? How would you describe him as a person? What is he like as just a regular guy?
He is more confident, but not blustery confident. Like a happy, friendly confidence. He doesn't have to be the center of attention. It's not that kind of thing. It's not like a big ego confidence. He's just a very well-grounded, happy, good man. Because Giles is always like confused, or he's in self-doubt, or he's like stuttering or something like that. Tony's not like that at all. He's just smooth.
Smooth like butter.
Yeah.
Another question right here.
Buffy's heart. That's the whole point of the season, right? And so they built me up as this big bad, and then they didn't kill me off, you know, which was awesome. But then you're left with this character that's an ill fit for the show. It doesn't really fit with the theme at all. So they had to figure out how to kind of make him make sense within the world and the theme of Buffy. And that's why I think it's such an interesting ride. Yeah.
They told me we've got about 5 minutes left. I think we blast through.
I talk so damn much.
No, is everybody enjoying themselves? Right over here.
I have a comment and a question. So Jesse from Rockland says you have a nice ass. My question is, who is the biggest prankster on set?
Oh, your answer now.
Nobody. Okay, but just to give you a good answer, the best prank I ever got was on Supernatural. And
that was a very pranky set.
It was.
Reputation.
It was. Jared and Jensen, the two leads of Supernatural, are awesome human beings. They are immune to fame, which is toxic to your soul. And they are humble and hardworking and wonderful people. And I was told, if they like you, they may prank you. And I was like, okay. And we were getting along really well. And I think we only had one scene that we were filming. How many kids are in the audience today? Probably a few. I'm going to be careful here. Deaf. So we can talk about things, we just use the right words. So I'm doing my close-up, and Jared and Jensen are across from me. And as is normal in a Hollywood set, the director is in another room watching a monitor. So all the director can see is me from here to here. That's all you see. So we're doing my close-up, and I feel like a little bobbling kind of above my thighs, so to speak, if you know what I mean. And I glanced down, I don't know if it was Jared or Jensen, but one of them's got his was Jared? Okay, he's got
apparently she was there.
He's got his foot out of his shoe. He's standing on one foot, perfectly still, by the way, because they're filming over his shoulder, which I can't imagine how to do that. But he had his foot, and he was just going, like, what you gonna do now, big actor boy? And I just finished the take, and the director from the other room just goes, cut, print, move on. And they just went, dude! And that's the shot that's in the show. And I don't think he shows that that's happening at all. But yeah, that was a great prank.
They told me we've got to wrap things up. I've got two little bits of housekeeping. Up here on the stage, here in just a few, we got William Shatner? William Shatner is going to be in the house. So stick around for that. At 8, you've got something of a VIP performance. It's a wonderful acoustic set. How many of you are coming to that? A bunch of you? Good. Excellent. That's over in room 701 in the South Building, just to make sure that you know, you got a little bit of a walk, so make sure that you get over there. I want to wrap things up by asking you something that I may have asked you before, but going back, if you can, in your memory, to some of the earliest conventions that you did, your first brush with this amazing world of love and affection and compassion, what was the thing that struck you the most about coming out and doing these shows that is the reason that it is this whole unique thing? What was the thing that you felt the most that is why you keep coming back and doing these conventions?
Well, I've been coming to conventions since I was 13 dressed as Spock. So like, I love conventions. I feel like all the cool people come to like all the best people in Toronto are here, right now, you know? Or maybe it's just people that I get along with really easily. Maybe that's what it is, I don't know. But absolutely honestly, when I first started coming out for Buffy, I was really uncomfortable because I just didn't understand why people were that interested in me. It just seemed like a disconnect, in all honesty. So I was just like, I was kind of like, why are you so interested in me? Like, oh my God, you know? And so you guys seemed weird to me. Even though I'm a fanboy. Like when I first met Leonard Nimoy, I couldn't talk. I was like, you're Spock, can you please sign this for me, you know? And it took me a while to just accept the fact that I was on a show which I didn't make, but I was in, that people found useful. It's as simple as that. People watch the show, they really like it, because it's a really good show, which I didn't make, I was in. but I'm the face. My face was on the screen, so they want to talk to me about it, and we can celebrate what it meant to me to make it and what it meant for them to watch it. And now I just feel like I'm talking to all the cool people and we're having fun. You know, but it took a few years for me to just kind of put that together.
Yeah. So you're still here tomorrow and Sunday, right?
Yeah.
So if you didn't get to ask your question here this evening, he will be back tomorrow and Sunday over at his table. This is not something that I say to everybody. One of the things that I love about having you at these shows is the candor that you have with people and how honest and nothing is off limits with this guy, and the way that you look out for the generations coming up behind you in giving the kind of advice that they need to hear from somebody that they care about and trust as much as they care for you. Can we hear it one more time for James Marsters?